So I've started the recording, so let's get started. What I really want to do today more than anything is focus on the ideal planning candidate software. If you're not using it, I think that you should give it a try. For those clients who do use it, they find that it's got a really great advantage in helping them understand the level of service to deliver to clients. But before we get going on that, I want to just touch on the relationship equation. And I want to remind you that to access any of the support materials, you have to be logged into the website. So I'm going to click support. We're down to getting started. And I want to start with the relationship equation. And you'll notice that it's actually really the very first thing in all of the planning material that we have. And it essentially is at the core of what we do. So I'm going to open this little PDF file that describes it. And you'll see that the relationship equation is U plus D plus E divided by S. So relationship is the client's perception of your understanding of them, your dependability, getting things done, your level of expertise, but divided by the client's perception of your self-orientation. So if we go to the next page, what you'll see, or go down a couple of pages, is you'll see some math related to this. So let's say 10 is the highest possible score a client could give you, and they rate your understanding as 8 out of 10. They rate your dependability as 8 out of 10, and they rate your expertise as 8 out of 10. In other words, 8 plus 8 plus 8 is 24. But if the client's perception is that the focus of what you're doing is really about, getting their business, because you're going to earn commissions off of it, if they see that or perceive that your self-orientation is high, 8 out of 10, then the relationship score is 3. On the other hand, if they say you're really helping me, or you're interested in helping me, figure out things and, get in control of my money and have the life I want, it's all about me. It's not about you, the advisor. Therefore, their perception of your self-orientation is that it's very low, only 2 out of 10, then 24 divided by 2 is 12. So what it shows is that the most important factor in the relationship equation is actually the client's perception of your self-orientation. So at the heart of everything we do is to try and convey to the client that it's about them, it's about what they want to have and do in life, and so on. And that's one of the reasons, for example, in the whole financial planning process, that we have that values exercise and we put it at the very beginning. Because what it says is planning is not about the numbers. It's not about saving taxes. These are not the most important things. Planning is about planning for the life you want, the things that you want to have and do. And really at the heart of those are your value set. So if we put values at the beginning, we're really saying this is all about you. And I want to try and understand what's important to you. And that immediately conveys to the client that your self-orientation is low and that the real focus is all about them. So I just wanted to review the relationship equation very briefly today, because it really should, in a sense, frame everything that we're doing with clients. The next thing I wanted to touch on very briefly was this whole concept of marketing. And when I look at, and you'll notice from our new website, of course, that it's really all about advisors and where you want to go. And you may remember that it was several months ago now that we had that webinar in which we presented the whole story brand approach to websites. And I have become a real believer in that approach. The hero of the story is not us as the advisor. that's not the focus of our website. The hero of the story is the client. So it's the same thing with marketing. What I see with a lot of websites is what's right at the very beginning is some description of who the advisor is, what their qualifications are, and so on, rather than, the focus of attention being on the client. So when we talk about marketing, life planning, or financial planning, we don't talk about what could the benefits be, how could I help you, and so on. What we do instead is we talk about putting the client in the question. And the question is very simple. It's a simple statement. At some point, you decided to become a pharmacist or a doctor or a dentist or a lawyer or start your business or whatever it is that they do. And when people decided to do that, let's say become a pharmacist, then they knew what they needed to do to accomplish their goal. They obviously had to go to university, get the right education and so on. So they were very clear on the steps they needed to take to achieve their goal. And they followed those steps and achieved the goal. And we know that because today they're a pharmacist or a doctor or a lawyer or whatever it might be. So it then becomes the same question. Are you equally as clear about your lifestyle wants, the things that you want to have and do in life? And are you acting effectively to achieve them? So all we're doing is we're holding up the mirror and putting the client in the question. And of course, for most people, the answer is no, I don't have that clarity. And no, my actions are not aligned with those goals because I haven't defined what it is I want to do. So it's the same thing as the relationship equation. It's not about us. It's not about our credentials or anything else. That all becomes important, but the focus is right away is on the client and what is it that they want to have and do. Anybody want to comment on anything that I've said so far before we dive into the ideal planning candidate software? Okay, so I'll carry on. So here, there are instructions as to how this works. There's a questionnaire. That questionnaire is also installed on your computer. And then there's the software, which also is installed on your computer. But if for any reason it's still not there, you can download it. So I'm just going to go to my desktop and bring up the ideal planning candidates questionnaire. And it's like any of our questionnaires in the sense that you can brand it or we can brand it for you. So that includes putting in a logo, putting in a business card, changing the color of the color band so it matches, corporate colors. So you have a completely branded questionnaire. And then it's a matter of, clicking freeze form, of course, to lock all that in. And then it's just a matter of sending it out to the client. And it's a very simple questionnaire. So whereas with the retirement planning type questionnaires, you may want to complete those with the client, for instance. This is one that surely I think clients will have no trouble completing. So a client can put in their name. I'll use Bill and Sue today. And each of Bill and Sue completes their own questionnaire. They have different financial attitudes. And then it's just a matter of going through, I like to discuss investments, luck is something you make yourself, and so on. Notice some of the questions are a little reversed. So it says, I would rather not manage my own finances, meaning I disagree with that. I would actually prefer to manage my own finances. It's a very simple questionnaire to complete. Once they've done it, clients click the submit button. We don't bother with a password here. There's nothing of personal data. And then all the client does is enter your email address, and the email is created with the FDF file being extracted and automatically attached to the email. The email comes into you, you know who sent it to you, and then you can save that FDF file and then populate the software. So I've created a couple of FDF files, so I'm going to run the ideal planning candidate software. And the first thing I'm going to do is add Bill. So I just click the add button, put in his name, Bill Smith. And then because I have the FDF file, I can import the output from the FDF file. So I just click the import from FDF button, and I save Bill Smith's FDF file in the Ideal Planning Candidates folder. So with the Vision Systems folder, there's VisionWorks, if you have it, CorpWorks, TrustWorks, Presentation Builder, and so on, and the Ideal Planning Candidates folder. So that's where I'm saving the file. So I'm just going to select Bill, open it up, and then you can see that all of his questions have been populated. And all I need to do is click this button. And then what that does is it gives me Bill's scores relative to the national average range. So behind this is the financial attitudes work that we did in VisionWorks. And you may remember that it's actually 9 financial attitudes. Each attitude has 3 statements. So there are a total of 27 statements. And what we did was we took 3 of those attitudes, the 9 related statements, in order to create the Ideal Planning Candidate software. And the 3 attitudes that we look at, accountability, participation, and learning, then the average scores, the average range is based on that national survey we did, which is 2,000 respondents. It was coast to coast, a full demographic. So Bill says his responses are 100. So he's very much a believer in accountability. And accountability says the results I get in life are up to me. Somebody with a high accountability score, their attitude is whatever I can do to help me achieve what I want in life is a good thing to do. Therefore, planning is a good thing to do. If somebody has a low accountability score, their attitude is fate, luck, etc., will deal me the hand I get in life. Therefore, why bother to plan? So clearly you want to be working with people that have very high average or above average accountability scores. Participation relates to the active involvement of the management of money. And you can see that Bill's score is pretty much average. Anybody that has a low average or a below average score is the kind of person that organizes their financial affairs in a shoebox. And the result of that is that when you go and ask them for what their different expenses might be, as part of creating a plan, it can be a real struggle to try and get that information from them. And it's very important that you know this going into the planning process. If somebody has a high accountability score, but a low average or below average participation score, they may be very enthusiastic about planning, but when it comes to actually gathering the data that you'll need to create the plan, it could be painful. And if you know that beforehand, you could even consider saying to them, based on the survey that we did, I realized that you may not be, overly organized from the point of view of knowing what you spend your money on. If we're going to go ahead, I need your agreement that you will, gather that data for me. Otherwise, we'll just waste our time. So I think it's really important that you're heads up about it and possibly even, be quite frank with clients about it. Learning is simply based on what I learn, I implement. So again, we want somebody with a good learning score, somebody that's going to implement the plan. So those are Bill's scores, and I've intentionally made his participation score average. And the reason is that I'm going to now add Sue Smith and import her questionnaire. And I want you to notice that Sue's participation score is above average. So what that means is that if I'm giving out a questionnaire for the couple, that what I probably want to do is I probably want to give the data gathering questionnaire to Sue, because she's much more likely to get it completed than Bill is. So just keep that in mind. And also because when we look at the aggregate scores, which is the higher of Bill or Sue's for accountability, participation, and learning, you can see that we're using Bill's score for accountability. We know he drove them into the process. We're using Sue's score for participation. She'll get the questionnaire. And then when it comes to implementation, we're actually, again, we're using Bill's score. He's much more likely to ensure that things get implemented. You can see from Sue's score that she's at the very low end of the average range. So that gives us then some insight into the client's accountability, participation, and learning. And as a couple, their total is 41, but their grade is an A. And if you click the manual and have a look at all of this, again, this is all provided. What you'll see is the rating down here, and anybody with an A score becomes an ideal candidate. Anybody with a B plus is a strong candidate, B, a good candidate, but there may be some issues, in the area of participation as an example, and, data gathering, for instance. So those clients of ours who have been using this have found that it's extremely effective in understanding clients and the type of planning that they're going to be most suited to. Anybody with an A, B plus, they're likely probably going to embrace planning. They'll likely probably want a full financial plan. Whereas anybody with a score that's a C or a B minus, it may well be that you will hear them better if they say, just let me know if I'll be okay in retirement, really meaning that they're not all that likely to, really embrace planning. So if you try and, promote a full meal deal plan, it's likely that they're just not really suited to it. So you want to know that going into the planning process so that you're really providing them with, what will suit them best. So at this point, I'd like to throw it open to questions. Anybody with anything?
None here.
Okay.
Pretty straightforward so far, Michael.
Pardon me?
Pretty straightforward so far.
Okay, so those are the only things that I wanted to cover today. Pretty simple, just getting things off the ground, making sure that you're really aware of what's most suitable to a client before you begin the planning process. What we'll do next time is we're actually going to spend time on entry basics and types of help. And you can see that I consider this to be the most important set of videos. So we'll go through what I call discrete entries, static entries, ongoing entries, and we'll look at how we can manipulate those different entries. So it'll be very, kind of hands-on, so that you can see how you can virtually capture anything that people have in mind, whether it's, their perception of the rate at which property taxes have been going up, which in the experience of anybody in Toronto is at a far higher rate than the inflation assumption, how we can manage changes of payers. Let's say, for instance, if you've got a young couple and, there's going to be some time off, when children are born, all of those sorts of things, so that you can handle virtually anything that clients throw your way as far as, different cash flows and so on over time. So any other questions before we conclude for today? You all good?
Yep.
Yeah, I'm all good.
Okay.
Thanks, Michael.
Thanks for
Thanks,
your
Michael.
time, and I'll post this on YouTube so you can go back and have a look at it sometime.
Great, thank you.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Have
Bye
a
now.
great weekend.
You too.
Bye-bye.